these sounds has its own engine. Some of these sounds I tend to use a lot more than others. I went ahead and wrote a little breakbeat style type deal because I think it shows off a little bit more of the sound. And yeah, the crash,
The volume's here. Well,
let's go ahead and dial in.
But I guess you have sounds too.
Whatever you want. Oh God, don't say that. Installation feels fairly effective, but then everyone's like locked there.
I know.
It's like, what the? I'm nervous. I've never spoken to a crowd. Really? What am I saying?
I don't know. Whatever you say.
I'm joking.
Oh,
It's on.
oh yeah.
This is.
Yeah, that looks really cool.
Oh, that's Spencer stuff. I was thinking this was Ben's. I was like, that's like architectural design drawing. So do I just kind of say like, hey, welcome to ZeroSpace, and then I say, you know, or do I hand it off? You got it. Great. And then I just paint for ZeroSpace in the space. Nice. I'm still by my title. So producer. You can mention the other space if you want to do the other.
Hi.
Thanks. Music just stopped. Was there music playing at all? There was?
Because almost every single employee in ZeroSpace has a different answer for what ZeroSpace does.
Well, now
because if you ask me, I think animation studio, but that's not what it is. Okay.
All of the above.
I'm all of the above.
We are a multifaceted organization of artists.
That is a lot of ways.
They're all like 10 syllables.
Judges and critics have stepped out. They would have ragged on me for anything I said. John and
Oh, check.
Hello, hello.
Well. Welcome to DATLAB number 9.
Oh, the anthem.
So it's, I guess, a little bit over a year since we started, but this is our 12th monthly meetup. So yeah, thank you guys for all coming out, and for everyone that's been at any of these. Thank you, ZeroSpace. Thank you to all our past presenters, past sponsors, and yeah, all the friends in New York that are fans of digital art and technology and TouchDesigner. But yeah. Tonight, we have 3 speakers, a little AV performance, and a couple installations, which you were playing with. And yeah, I'm freestyling this, so I'm going to stop.
Well, I'm also freestyling. But I think, yeah, one thing I just wanted to say, too, it's been such an amazing journey. Like the fact that this is our 12th meetup, just from when we first imagined this, the whole goal was just how do we get the nerds in a room together, and we wanted to just be able to make a space where everyone could come collaborate and meet each other in this space, and we were just completely blown away by everyone that showed up, and it's been so inspiring to see all of you here, and also all the support that we've gotten along the way to be able to be here and to use this incredible space to have people share their work. Yeah, that's been such an amazing journey. So thank you, everyone, for all of this. It means a lot. Yeah. Tonight, we have a crazy lineup. I'm so excited for you all. We are going to do 3 talks, and I also want to make sure that the folks that have set up these installations have a chance as well to do to come describe their projects a little bit. I know you've all been playing around with them, but I want to make sure also we'll get them up on stage too. Yeah, that'd be huge. And also, really important thing too, we do have another meetup planned for December.
It's exciting.
And we want to see you up on this stage as well. So know as well, we have like a submission form, and we want to make sure that please submit your projects, talks, AV performances. We'd love to have you come share your work. That'd be awesome.
To find that form, you can go to any of the Partiful things, which should be there, or DATLABNYC.com. We have a website, which we've had for a little bit, but we just don't announce things.
So fancy. Cool.
Yeah. I guess Audrey's going to talk a little bit about the space, and then we're going to get started.
Hi all, welcome to ZeroSpace. My name is Audrey. I'm the producer for ZeroSpace. We are a studio that kind of does everything from animation to interactive to experiential, and working on all the different technologies from TouchDesigner to AI to Unreal and everything above. So I just want to welcome you all to the space, and I'll hand it off to you guys to kind of go from there.
Yeah, ZeroSpace has been wonderful, wonderful. This is our third. Yeah, we don't know how to count. We just know TouchDesigner. But yeah, we have the first presenter is Benjamin Bojko. Yeah. Well, I'll let him pronounce his name correctly. His work is really incredible. I'm not going to say too much. No spoilers. But yeah, want to welcome him up. And everyone give him a warm round. Cool.
Hello. Thanks for the intro. I'm going to talk today about learning to play while building the instrument. And yeah, I'm Ben. I'm an independent tech director. Super honored to be speaking here. I've attended many of the events, so it's weird to be on the other side right now. Thanks for letting me speak. Let's dive right in. So I would imagine many of you here probably have a similarly nonlinear trajectory as I have had. I do, yeah. I think they're going to switch it over in a second. Thank you. So, yes. My background is originally in Flash 4. I built Half-Life mods, and then over the last 20 years, I've slowly made my way into physical installations. And for me, really, the same question has always come back. You know, you kind of don't know what you're doing when you get into it, but you figure it out along the way. And every different medium I've played in basically has become a new instrument that I then had to learn. And while those, you know, the tools and the collaborators constantly change, the core question has always stayed the same, and that's been how do you be, you know, how can you be creative with a tool that doesn't really exist yet? Which brings me to this project here. This is an Ecto that we just installed at the Venice Biennial. I think it actually just got taken down after half a year. And it's a computational membrane installation. And the team here was really large that was involved. There was a very open-ended brief for us. And the canvas hadn't really been defined when we joined it. Before we dive in, just want to give you a quick look of the actual final piece. Is there audio too? So this was a big collaboration. There were a lot of people involved. SoIL Architects were the folks that brought everyone in. They worked with Mariana Popescu at the TU Delft in the Netherlands, who is a membrane and structural architect. And I was brought in with the team at the Green Isle. So we had many experts, many different disciplines, and even just the experiential team was fairly large. My role there was being the software lead, but I also was responsible for helping define the initial sort of direction for the media. And the brief that we got already existed in a way. We didn't start from scratch. The venue already existed. The membrane concept was already there, and the knitting technique had already been tested. But we needed to figure out how to augment it, and how can we learn how to play with this membrane and put some media on it and really develop an instrument out of it. And you might have seen the brief asked for this dynamic media expression, and you really had to ask yourself, what is that, right? What are those expressions? And we had to define how does our instrument work, and what we did was start very broadly and then narrow it down iteratively. So I'm going to walk you through that process. The first step for us was research. What kind of tech is out there? What's interesting to us? What have we seen lately? We looked at a lot of different things. We looked at LED tubes. We looked at pebble lights, fiber optics, circular LED, LCD, and so on, projection laser. We didn't test all those products, but we did put them all in a pot and basically let us sort of review what might work, what wouldn't, and what was intriguing. A lot of them were easy to rule out in the beginning. There were some constraints with transport. We couldn't drill into the building. We had to work with a venue power, and there was a fixed budget. But as we were finding our initial selection, we got a sense of, or we wanted to get a sense for how it would look in the venue itself. So we started simple here. We just sketched it all over on Photoshop, made little animations and mock-ups, and that gave us an initial sense of what might work with that story of craft and algorithm. So we looked at laser projection here. We looked at different LED strip layouts, LED rings, and those screens. After that, we also realized we needed to see this in motion and actually look at the real membrane from different angles. And luckily, the architects already had a model for us, so we were able to visualize this whole thing in Unreal Engine and test the lighting and different perspectives and even some initial sort of very crude animations. And for us, a really, really big insight from that visualization was that just adding tech to it isn't going to solve the problem. And what we wanted to do was highlight the structure, but keep the tech subtle and really kind of avoid this Christmas tree aesthetic here on the left. So LED strips were our clear winner, but even within that, if any of you have been to the online sites where you can order them wholesale, there are so many options. So here, again, we had to balance cost, integration, aesthetic. We initially thought that these LED tubes would be our top pick, but once we finally got a sample of the membrane, we realized that it was actually way too bulky. It would stand out way too much. And this little product that online looked kind of weird and gross, but actually in person with the fabric was really nice, were these pebble beads that were able to integrate into the fabric really nicely, and we could just weave them in there and they would disappear when they were off, but still be pretty bright when they're on. So the question for us was, how do we play our instrument? Our medium was taking shape, and at this point, my priority as sort of the software lead here was, how do we facilitate that discovery process? We knew we had the lights. We wanted to integrate them somehow into this membrane. And we had our 3D model and somehow needed to get to DMX at some point. Now we just needed to figure out what was in the middle. And that was our task. So with a large team like that, one thing that was really important was that we could all work in parallel. And what I wanted to do was help design a pipeline that let everyone basically have a little sandbox that they could be messy in, right? So they could do whatever they wanted to do, but then there were very clear handoff points. So the 3D artists could do their work, and we would define what that would look like, what the output would be, and then we could continue down that pipeline. And that's what we did. So we started with a Rhino model that could be updated, and it updated a lot. Basically, we wanted to see where we could trace the LEDs, where the structural points were, where the seams were, and so on. So that required a lot of iteration. And from that Rhino model, we could then import that into Unreal Engine again. And don't worry, I'll get to TouchDesigner too. But Unreal here in our case was really helpful because it allowed us to import that model really quickly and import the venue, play with different lighting conditions, because we didn't actually know if the space was going to be darkened or daylight. And then in Unreal, we also had a couple of tools like spline editing, and we also were able to receive DMX, which will come in handy later. The final output from Unreal then was our data prepared for TouchDesigner, and that was really our animation sandbox. This is where we spent most of our time, at least I say the animator, technologists, and so on. And here the first task for us was preparing all of our data and we could make sure that it's centrally accessible. Then we looked at different rendering techniques and finally generate that output for the DMX controller. I will note that a lot of this pipeline that we built will be a lot easier with the latest TouchDesigner release, probably, with pops being able to have attributes, DMX fixtures, going to be amazing. So I'm really excited to try that out on the next project. And this is really what allowed us to be messy in the right places, right? Having all these different stages. So we could pull in the updated model from the architect pretty regularly, and our motion designer could generate videos. We as technologists could then write shaders, and our electrical engineer would get DMX output. So having all that compartmentalized was really helpful. And finally, we had our output via DMX. So that went to a Falcon controller and to Unreal Engine. And you might ask yourself, why did we double up like that? Well, we had a distributed team at the time, so we had people kind of all over the world. I was actually in Tokyo for 2 months of the development, and we only had hardware in one location. And we would then all meet in Venice and try to put it all together. So for us, it was really important that we could verify spatially what does it all look like, but also technically, is it outputting the right data? So in a way, this doubling up of sending it to the Falcon controller and seeing it in person live, and then also having it in Unreal, that helped us troubleshoot a lot and highlighted issues pretty early on with DMX mapping and animations themselves. So with the pipeline and the scaffolding, we had our instrument somewhat ready, but we needed to figure out how to play our first chords, and we started experimenting with the first basic building blocks. So our first priority here was give our motion designer the tool to create content, right? Let them explore a little bit. And what we did was create this ability to project 2D content onto this 3D mesh, right? So here, I think it's basically just a top-down projection, and that allowed our motion designer to just create video files, and we were able to just pull those into TouchDesigner and update them really quickly. And just that little shader helped us build a great foundation, because our motion designer was a lot faster at making these animations, and the one on the top left is actually just a screen recording of them sort of drawing a line and tracing a line in Paint, I think. And that helped us explore sort of the moves and the motions and the rhythms that we wanted to create in order to achieve the sort of crafted aesthetic that we wanted to have. And honestly, it also helped us build out our shader timeline because it bought us some time. Then we went into code and developed a couple of animations, and the first most basic one is really here, our baby steps, where we had one line animating at one time, but then obviously we could expand that into incorporating audio. We could expand that into incorporating the length of each line and the position along that. And that already started highlighting the structure in a really nice and interesting way, just with that simple technique. But what we really wanted to do was take advantage of the full 3D shape. We had information about each column, where the LED strips were coming from, so structurally from the building. We wanted to know which spline each LED was part of, and then incorporate all of that into a shader essentially. And again, if you've read the POP documentation, a lot of that will be easier now. But it was already really nice to have all of that in this pipeline here. And then we were able to mix and match. We were able to add audio, hear the information with each column, so you have audio emitting from, from each column. And I think this was really the spot for us where we were able to put all these different tools together with that foundation and really start to improvise and kind of define our rhythm here. So the final composition for us was, at this point, we were all working in parallel, and we had our animations being developed by our designers and coders. We had our models being updated by the architects, and then we had DMX universes being mapped. There were spreadsheets being shared and exported into Unreal Engine and then back into TouchDesigner. And there was some stressful soldering going on. And all at the same time, this actual real membrane was being built and knitted, which was an amazing own task in itself. And then at some point, it was time to fly to Venice. So first, we had the membrane that was being tensioned and hoisted. So that took a couple of days. And then we actually wove in those LED strips with the artist. And again, there was a lot of stressful soldering. But one thing that was really, really great to see at this point already, even though our software team wasn't there, we had already tested this full stack virtually. And once we plugged everything in, it was almost 99% there. And that was really great to see. So even laying on the floor, all those animations, we could recognize them. We were like, oh, okay, it's getting close, it's getting close. And then next, we came in with a couple of laptops and started playing with the animations. And this is really where we saw our instrument for the first time and saw it fully assembled, and it worked. And this is where really all this time invested in the infrastructure paid off, because we finally had some time to play with it. We had about a week on site, and we had to spend maybe a day trying to get everything ironed out with the pipeline for DMX and so on. And the rest for it was really just playing and kind of having a jam session with the sound designer. And yeah, this is, I think, where we actually learned the most about this instrument. And it was incredibly important for us to have that time to tweak, develop all the pacing, work on different modes. We actually even had time to create different animations in new modes and cut others, like certain assumptions that we had about the scale of it virtually. Obviously, in person, it always looks different. We went a little bit too subtle in the beginning and realized once we were there, it was kind of boring. So things you only see in person, but also things you can only figure out when you have the time to do that. So what did I learn about playing in this case? How did we play and build our tool at the same time? For me, these takeaways really were that each prototype along this process had a job. So in the beginning, we explored different opportunities. We eliminated certain tech so we could get that out of the way quickly. And then we kept on building prototypes to verify, right? We tested. We had our Unreal Engine prototype. We had various testing tools to test the universes. And I think it's always a balance with prototyping, right? I think it's a very general term, but it's helpful when there's a very targeted purpose for each one of those. And the pipeline gave everyone room to be in their own medium, be in the medium that they're strong in, and that they can be the most effective in. And like I said, with the early investment into that pipeline, that really paid off. We didn't really use Unreal Engine for production. Like, I barely used it on site. But when we were in different time zones, that was incredibly important, and it kind of gave us confidence. So having done that work, we knew that the DMX mapping would work remotely, and we had that time to do improv on site. And that's my talk. As a final note, thank you so much for having me here. Shout out to this amazing community. This is only my second TouchDesigner project in production, and this wouldn't be possible without all the amazing folks that talk about their process here, share all the resources. I'm really lucky to be able to join these and learn from you all, so thank you so much.
So crazy. This is your second project in production. That's awesome. Questions from the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. The question was about integrating sound with the playing. So there were a couple things going on. First, we just thought we wanted to have a soundtrack for this thing. And basically, it was just looping sound. So we had different scenes, and each scene had a mode of audio. But then once we were on site, we realized, okay, we have a fully spatial sound system now, and we have information about the space and where each light is. So we had certain things where, for example, one experiment was came out of a conversation about over too many espressos, and the sound designer said, could we activate or use that somehow, because I have this output texture that I can generate where I can tell you where the sound is coming from spatially. So we just said, okay, let's try to track it in TouchDesigner with a blob tracking, and then create visuals that actually followed that sound. So things like that, where it was kind of just an afternoon where we were relaxed enough to brainstorm, shoot the shit a little bit, and then kind of incorporate animations, visuals, and audio together, really. Yeah, yeah. The question was about role and sort of onboarding people onto the project, and then how I understood my role. Yeah, that's a great question. I think at the beginning, everything just feels like an opportunity, right? But then you also go through a little bit of the project management, like you said. So we did put together a timeline. We looked at, okay, how much time do I have? How much time do we have in a calendar? In terms of months. And then we realized we needed more people on it. So, it was a pretty simple equation at some point based on what we wanted to achieve. And luckily, we had some folks that we could add on and that were available. But then really, a big part of that was thinking about how can we then give people that room to explore and not be too prescriptive about, here, I need you to implement feature A, B, and C, because that's for something like this is not going to work because we didn't know what that would be yet. Yeah, one more. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Actually did at some point, but the performance and latency wasn't that great. So the question was about VR visualization. I also had a little 3D display. In the end, what we got out of it, I think for what we had, we would have had to invest more time into optimizing it probably. I think it would have been helpful eventually, but in this case, unfortunately. Sorry? Yeah, not there.
There's also a question from the chat on the live stream about, so is Unreal Engine your preferred previous software? They found that it can be a bit harder, unintuitive than TD, and what are some of the previs strengths versus Disguise or TouchDesigner?
Oh yeah, I had a whole slide that I had to cut about some of the things that where Unreal is really inviting and appealing on the label, but then once you get into it, it's really hard. And we definitely had those moments where all the lighting looked great, except when you turn off all the textures and realize everything was splotchy, and I'm sure you've seen all of that. That's something I had done a few times before, so luckily I just had sort of a list of things that I ran through and was like, okay, I gotta set this setting and this setting and this setting, but I wouldn't recommend it if this is your, if you're under time pressure and this is the first time getting into Unreal. The advantages of it really came to shine when we played a lot with emissive lighting. We had different mixes of media, so we had these LCD screens in there, for example, that were animating textures, and those were then generating light, so we could see if what that would look like. Would it take away from the membrane and so on? And I think that would have been pretty hard in Touch, at least from my knowledge. Being able to have this sort of interplay with sort of real-ish physical environments, I think that was one of its strengths. That being said, in TouchDesigner, we still had previs. We had our 3D model just of the LED strips, and we used that a lot for animations. But we came back to Unreal a lot to see what it looks like with the texture. One more, yeah. All the way from start to finish, I would say 4.5 months probably, but it wasn't full time for everyone. I think everyone had other projects going on at the same time, but yeah, I would say from starting to talk to LED integrators, vendors, ordering LED samples and so on, that was probably all a month, and then assembling the team maybe another few weeks, and then full on production for 2.5 months roughly. it was just for the festival. I mean, technically, it's still there. I mean, it was up for half a year. Yeah, from May to this month, I think. I forget exactly when they were tearing it down. Sorry, did it? Not that I know of. We had a webcam looking at it, and every time we checked, it was fine. We didn't hear any reports. So, thank you. All right, I'll pass it on to the next speaker then. Thank you.
All right. Let's go ahead and get started with our next presenter. So excited to introduce you all to Jahanzeb. And they have been doing some really, really amazing work in the music space and the visual space. And yeah, they're founder of Karachi Radio, basically putting on their own version of Boiler Room. So I'm really excited for you all to get to see behind the scenes. They've done some really amazing projects that have ranged from like TouchDesigner, Notch, Unreal, all the different pieces. And yeah, super excited. Go ahead and please give a huge round of applause. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Jahanzeb. Thank you for the intro. I run this organization called Karachi Community Radio, which originally started in Karachi around 8 years ago. And I moved here around 2 years ago, and this has been work that's very close to me, and it's something that I've been doing full time for a while. So I want to kind of go over a lot of the projects we've done in the time we have. I was thinking of taking a deep dive in one of the projects like the previous speaker, but I think giving context to an audience that is not aware of our work is, I think, it's much more interesting and there'll be a much bigger takeaway from it. So just to start off, this is me in a band, and we used to have a lot of battle of the bands. I'm with the guitar, and I think this was a very special time. This was in school, when I was still in school, and back in like 2006, 2005, and there was like a very good sense of a DIY community where we were collaborating, we were working together, we were helping each other figure out each other's gear, and there was like such a good community of people all around that was putting on shows, and it was something that was really, I deeply resonated with, and it kind of stuck with me for a while, because later on I went to college, and then I was like, what am I doing with my life? And then I was looking back, and I thought about this time that was really special for me. And then fast forward to 2000, this is around 2017, I'm at a technology Google incubator in Karachi, and they had this green room that no one was really using there. And I was working on a different project, and on the weekends I decided that I was going to use this green room to just start live streaming DJs and producers and artists that I knew of, and would start archiving a lot of the music scene that existed in Karachi. And this picture was actually taken on the day of me testing the first live stream on OBS, I think, right there. And yeah, this kind of became a way for me to meet, collaborate, work on technology, support a scene that had kind of no kind of archive around it. And then this project kind of, eventually we ended up, now we have the biggest archive of electronic music sets and a lot of even folk music that we started. But at its core, I kind of used creative technology to help me get people excited about what we were doing, and to even self-fund and bootstrap what we're doing. This is like our first show. This is a jazz music experimental show in an old part of Karachi. And these are like 25 feet tall sculptures that a friend of mine just, put together. And then over here to this side, there's these projections that are made in P5. And this is using imagery from, there's a market in Karachi called Empress Market, and it was being kind of destroyed around that time. And I took kind of footage from that. And the idea was to kind of not look into the past, but bring people into the present with our shows. Like, there's always this idea of nostalgia with Pakistan. Like, when back in the day, there was like a great time where more people could do things, and there was more music around. And I kind of wanted to use technology as a way to bring people to the present and get excited about what is to come. And throughout our shows, like, this is the first event that we did with TouchDesigner. This is finally I was able to afford a GPU that could run the Connect and do this real time. And also we were live streaming this from the same computer. This is the feed from that. And this entire is being switched but inside of TouchDesigner as well, which was like, I figured out like an hour before the show how to do that. So it's a great node to have, the switcher node. And one thing I want to highlight is that the goal was always to kind of introduce artists and collaborate and even introduce the audience to new ways of expression. And through my shows, because we were very lucky enough to have an audience that supported us and bought tickets, and they kind of allowed us to experiment and do whatever we wanted to do, and that kind of allowed me to kind of collaborate and bring in people and give them creative freedom. And this is a flyer that we made back in, I think, 2018, 19 in processing, and we were just like using tech in whatever way we could to kind of promote music and culture and kind of get people attention. This is the first kind of algorave at a tech conference where they were pitching POS systems, and we just went up on stage and started live coding in Foxdot back then. And then it was also an interesting collaboration with other musicians from the community, where one of the artists is playing on the bansuri, which is a bamboo flute, one of the oldest form of instruments. And so this is online. You can watch it on YouTube. and yeah, through our work, we started getting attention in Pakistan. We would get hired for big projects, and then it finally allowed us to get our own studio space, which is always the dream when you start with nothing and you're like, finally, we have a studio space and now we can do whatever we want. And so this was, and so with our first studio, this was right after, like this was around COVID when everything got easier. I decided to build an XR studio. And you can see TouchDesigner that I'm running to kind of control through DMX RGB light on the artist. And then we're using Notch for the virtual environment. And I'm using an Intel RealSense and just 3D printed this bracket for the XYZ position for the camera. And we're like very scrappy, but at the same time, we eventually end up doing one of the first like virtual concerts with an artist who's doing really well now, and Hassan Rahim has got us on board, and we're using like a ring light for this, and the camera is going through this door hinge that you can't see, and it's like when we're moving in the 3D environment, it's like such a bare bone setup, but it was like we're really happy to bring this together because, as I said, like the artists from our community then trusted us to, when they became big or when they became successful, they hired us to kind of do like weird stuff around that time. And so that kind of funded the community radio aspect of it, where we had it online for a bit, and then we kind of focused more on events and free archival of DJ sets with artists. And there is audio, but wait, let me see. Okay, anyway. But, and so a lot of the stuff that we were doing was, for the community, it was always for free. And then we would get people and the artists who would then, go big, then they would hire us to do stuff. And then we would keep kind of funding what we did. This is another project in Unreal. And this is all like 1-2 person project. And we're using photogrammetry to 3D scan in a very, the equipment that is here is pretty advanced, and this is just like using really basic stuff, but then the results were kind of really amazing because I think the utility that we got out of one project, then it went scaled up with the artist. So that was a music video, then it became visuals for this artist kind of tour that year, and a lot of this stuff is done in a very with a very limited resources, and I'm really, even when I look at it now, I'm like really happy that it turned out. It still looks kind of decent. And then, these are other things that we did was kind of mesh projection for another artist, and this is using tech, and this was the first time we time coded everything. So this was also like we time coded the visuals, the sound, the lighting, and everything was synchronized. So this was a very exciting moment for us. And then a lot of this then just came back and fed into our studio space, where where other collectives organized and hosted events, and because we kind of used creative tech to kind of fund the community aspect of what we were doing in terms of having a space to come together, in terms of experimenting, in terms of sharing ideas, and this was our studio space, and where we kind of did a lot of stuff. And then finally, this was a big one for us, where Boiler Room got in touch with us because they saw us, we were doing projection, and they needed, someone to produce their event without them coming to Pakistan. And so we did everything with kind of very little oversight, and this has gotten like millions of views since, and some of the sets on this, and kind of brought the community on a global platform that allowed us to kind of, then start traveling to different places and start funding. Another thing I want to mention is that through the Boiler Room project, we raised enough funding to work on a project that I was really excited about, which is this is a picture of the northern mountains in Chitral, which is a place in north of Pakistan. And there's a really special instrument called the Chitrali sitar. And surprisingly, a lot of people in Pakistan are also unaware of the instrument. But because of that, this is my friend Irfan Ali Taj, who's a folk artist, who kind of suggested this instrument and got us really excited. So we wanted to draw attention to this instrument and kind of help, bring attention to it and get more people excited about it and have it come in front, like give it more life in terms of the artists and even the people who are making these instruments. So we worked on this piece. This is a second version of the self-playing sitar that we developed in our studio, and it's using like stuff that we found from all over Karachi. Like the rods are like bicycle spokes. These are hobbyist servos. These are 3-pin plugs. So we took out these plugs and then cut out tire from a bike tire. It's literally a bike, but we've like disassembled it in a way and then kind of put it together to play on its own. And this instrument, I have like some pictures here where when we got the instrument and then when we were prototyping had it kind of then installed at Biennale in Karachi. And this was installed for like, I think, a month or so. And this was a very special moment for us to have something that we developed and researched and developed, and then we're able to showcase and just to see how people were interacting with it, because, again, going back into getting people excited about music and art and culture and using creative tech to kind of lead into that, and also bring up questions like, does an instrument need to play itself, or what happens if a musician plays with this? And so there were a lot of things that we were exploring with this piece, and it got a lot of attention. It came on like one of the biggest music shows in Pakistan. It has like 1 million views now. This was a big moment for us where we got paid really well, and we didn't do anything. We just like sat and everyone got paid. And this is like some of the team that I worked in, and there were a lot of people involved, and credit goes to a lot of people on this instrument, because different people got involved at different times. Someone gave up and then someone else came in, and then it just like kept kind of going, and I kept showing up for it, and I kept kind of helping it grow. And now we're hoping to design the third version of it, and we want to improve the mechanics and take it on tour, bring it here. So after, I think, this project, I decided that I wanted to kind of see what's out there. And then we came to New York 2 years ago. I did our first show as Karachi Community Radio at Lot Radio. Same day, we were lucky enough to have public records where we did a sold-out show at the Sound Room. And I was like, this is great. I got to meet a lot of really cool people. And I kind of decided that I was going to kind of continue and meeting and kind of interacting with a lot of creative people in this scene. And I was kind of excited about learning stuff here and then kind of taking it back and building that bridge, which hasn't been there, at least for us. So earlier this year, I went back to Pakistan, and this is a show that we did, and this is in collaboration with another collective in the UK. And we threw this, and I did the entire production. We built a street light for it, an audio reactive street light using TouchDesigner, and one of my friend Pablo just gave me an LED, and then I took it back to Pakistan and put it in the street light. And then we and this all happened within a day. Like, I flew back, and then we built this really, almost safe looking street light, and it kind of worked. And then this is like a bit of the visual from the event. And this is kind of just reacting to the sound. And the idea was what does it feel like to dance on the streets of Karachi? And kind of this was what I was exploring. And, then I came back to New York, and we threw an event here, which is called Gully, which means street. And this was at Silo, Brooklyn. And we kind of then brought it to ZeroSpace as part of Artifice, and they were really kind enough to kind of host it here in the back. And and like just seeing this journey of like a project that, you know, has been kind of funded by shows through our community, and then now it's traveling to different places, is kind of what really keeps me going. And then being able to use the skills that we're learning and developing to even help artists that are going to different stages. So, you know, just over last year, we did Glastonbury Festival, we did the visual production for from some of the artists from our community. We did Coachella this year, we did a lot of visuals for one of the stages. And then, you know, this brings me back. This is a picture from our first show of this year at Silo, and this was a sold-out event. And this is the picture, kind of what reminds me of the first picture, why we do this, why I use creative technology. It's to kind of bring people together, to have a sense of community, and you know, to share music and to keep growing together. And it's not just I think what's interesting and exciting is that it's not just it has, I think technology has brought in a lot more people into our scene than just being, you know, South Asian, because we're from Karachi, but, you know, and being in New York has just allowed us to grow in so many different ways. And I think that first picture, where it was about coming together and feeling a sense of community and home, is what KCR is about and what creative technology has done for us. And that's it.
Any questions?
Touched coming from I'm Jay, and I was really moved and touched by everything that you're doing. I'm a musician perspective, and that's all I've been doing all my life, and I play very well. I've done all sorts of gigs, whatever, doesn't matter. And I just find it really interesting, and I have an opportunity this time to, and my wife is doing this, but to really try to, the idea is to create a community and help a community and have things grow out of what I'm sorry, people are calling me, that's why I have to turn this off. But the idea of being able to grow a community out of this music scene, because it seems that the music world is completely devoid of this, especially the people who play professionally. And so for me, being around this is so exciting. I mean, I was dying to hear the instrument. It had nothing to do with it playing perfectly, because it has to do with the parameters and understanding all those other things. And I play bansuri. I play all these woodwinds a lot, you know. But so I was really touched by it. But the thing that got me the most was that the community speaking the same language, which is what brings us together, which is why I'm here, you know. Yep. And my wife is going to, she's a student of Torrens, and that's why I'm here. I'm like, this is so amazing and good. And it's so exactly what I'm trying to do right now, actually. I'm working on radio for the first time instead of touring. And I wanted to expand it. My mind is like, how do I expand this thing? Because radio is just, it sucks. And the idea of it, more importantly, it has to come from roots. So I was very moved by the idea that you were dealing with roots. And anyway, so my question to you is, how do I engage in that? Obviously, I'm in the right place, asking you guys, but I really want to understand that more. I'm not a technical person, but I know how important it is to create a community. And I thought the idea of tech that has such a negative aspect, unfortunately, is a lot of ignorance, like everything else. Yeah. But I'm so grateful that I'm here to hear this. And I was very moved by that, by the idea of actual instruments, people, engagement. That to me is something that is accessible to the world around us. Anyway, so I'd love to talk to you after.
Yeah, no, for sure we can have a long chat afterwards.
I'm sorry about that. I just thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you.
That's great. Any other questions? Offerings? No? Thank you so much. Yes. Question from the chat. Or no, not from the chat, just from over here.
Hi.
Hello.
Mine's not really a question. It was really nice and comforting to see kind of your story. I have met a lot of artists in New York during my time here, and a lot of like projection artists, musicians, so many DJs out in like East Williams, Bushwick. where it's just so hard for them to find a place to like gather or even like get together, and it makes such a huge deal when one person meets another person, and it creates more impact from that. I recently quit tech to like struggle bus and like start a low-cost venue so that people can come and just have shows and make music. So it's really cool to see that like that is actually a huge deal for people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
What's the name of your venue?
Yeah.
Kinship? Yeah. We'll figure it out. We'll feature you later. Any other questions? Yeah.
So you're pretty much, I'll say that you're pretty much a nomad, right? In terms of, you know, you have, I'll say, the foundation in Karachi, but for the most part, KCR is like you're in a nomadic space, right? So basically, like the light posts, wherever you post up is where it's happening, right? Do you have any intention of having a brick and mortar spot anywhere in the world?
I mean, for sure, I think the first place would be, and I had that when I was in Karachi, in a studio where we were recording, and I think the idea was for me to kind of come here, learn about new things, and bridge that world and figure out more ways, like revenue streams. And you're right about being a nomad in that sense, because this is like the world that I've built, and I live in this world, and it kind of KCR goes wherever. So it's not like Karachi is the origin of KCR, but it's, you know, it's open to the rest of the world, where our curation is also, you know, very diverse in that sense, and it's people who are very excited about the kind of stuff we're doing. But yeah, I think we're getting there slowly. That's my goal, is have, you know, an actual space that gets funded, but it also kind of, the biggest issue I think I forgot to mention, like being in Pakistan, the biggest challenge, even if you're really talented, it's having access to the rest of the world. And even if you do really well, you will not get a visa. And it's something that I had to kind of, you know, I was very lucky enough, because after doing this for 6 years, I had enough work that I was like, oh wait, I can kind of use this to kind of apply for a certain visa and travel. But a lot of people don't have access to that. And for me, solving that is, you know, one of the things that's very close to me, is obviously having a space, a platform here that champions artists from everywhere, and then, you know, and obviously building a space eventually where more people can benefit, learn skills, and do the stuff they want to do and not what they're told to do. Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, so we got one more talk and then a little AV performance afterwards. The next speaker, I guess, yeah, I'm just gonna go right into it, is Spencer Sterling. Good buddy of mine, amazing artist. Sir Spence on Instagram, you might have seen some laser stuff, some like awesome, just like break the tech, make it crazy, and blow your minds. I'd say that those are three things that Spencer does often. But yeah, I'm gonna let him speak. There might be some StreamDiffusion madness that I haven't really shared, except for maybe with him directly. But he has been a big push on, like one, asking for features, pushing the features, and then like, yeah, showing me what can actually be done with it. But I'll let him take it from here. Spencer.
Oh wait, let's see what happened. I think it's working. Yeah. All right. It's going to do that for the VEI and the IP adapter and the model. Who made this? Why did they do it? I didn't want to keep it here cooking the whole time.
Yeah, fair.
It would just get really hot forever speaking.
I could have waited to introduce you until you were ready.
No, I'll have to do it again.
No, it's good.
Here we go. This should be the last one.
One more.
I'm good. Yeah, I found a good example one to go into. Yeah. I found out actually my sharpening processor was dropping the FPS like crazy, so I just turned it down and it was like running at like 30 FPS. I'm like, okay.
Oh, man.
So I just upped the resolution to get it back down to 24, and now it's like even sharp. Great.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, do it. We just do it. I'll give myself.
What'd you say?
I'll give myself a quick intro. I can do a quick intro or something.
Yeah, we'll let you.
I'm just gonna jump into it. Yeah, no, you do it. Is this good?
All right, word. I'll grab the music. And now, for real this time, instead of me introducing him without him being set up at all, we got Spencer.
Hey.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Spencer. I do like lots of. I've been using TouchDesigner, Notch, Unreal Engine for like 10 years, I would say. Mostly working in real-time visuals for large events and concerts and stuff like that. And then got way deep into this AI stuff. I worked with Runway for about a year, and then since then I've just been freelancing and kind of experimenting with all these different kind of techniques we have available now and just having fun. So today I'm gonna kind of show you guys some of the stuff I've been working on with StreamDiffusion specifically. But just to kind of show you the stuff I've been doing recently. I've been doing lots of these like installations in kind of like tunnels and other spaces in LA where I essentially project with 2 different projectors and 2 lasers to create these kind of like underground, I do basically underground raves in LA inside of tunnels. And a lot of these are using StreamDiffusion and then using TouchDesigner for the laser integration as well. Let's see another one here. So instead of kind of going through a bunch of slides and showing you stuff I did, I'm just gonna like actually just dive into this and just show you how everything works and kind of the current state that it's in now, which is essentially these clips were taken from maybe a week or like 2 weeks ago, and now we've essentially doubled the resolution and the frame rate like completely. Like the performance for this kind of feedback loop deform like setup is now like 3x what it was because of some kind of new stuff that Daydream has implemented on the back end. But everything that I'm going to show you is going to be running local on this 5090 machine here. So yeah, let's just get into it. So this is StreamDiffusion currently running with SDXL with IP adapter at 896 by 512. And it's running at about 26 FPS right now, along with a bunch of other stuff that's running in the background. If we go and take like another reference and drag it in here, you can see it instantly changes, does some crazy stuff. It's also completely promptable as well. And the way that we're able to kind of create this infinite zooming sequence is a technique that was initially done in the kind of like early diffusion days with disco diffusion, where essentially you generate a frame from noise, like an image from noise, like you normally do for text to image, and then you take that generated frame and then you add more noise and then you transform it a bit, which in this case is like zooming in. So if I'm transforming the image to be bigger every time, then we're going to get a zoom in effect, and then you can kind of transform it as well to kind of be able to fly through these spaces. And as you kind of add sharpening and noise and all this stuff, you can kind of create this infinite sequence that you can fly through. And it's a really cool way to kind of explore these tools and make it, instead of it being like a effect that's added onto input footage, you're actually synthesizing all of these visuals in real time, and you just get to fly through and explore it, and it's just super fun. And now we have it running at a really high frame rate on this computer, and I'm going to kind of show you what the setup is like, and then I'm going to show off kind of the new processor system that makes it possible in StreamDiffusion to kind of hook these things up and do it this way. So I'm just going to dive in here. So this entire process starts with noise. So in this case, I basically have this like circular noise pattern in the center. And I kind of like this because with the laser, you want to keep a lot of negative space because it's really difficult for the laser to trace geometry. So you want to limit its geometry, but also the laser looks best when it has a lot of negative space on the outside so you can see the beams and see it tracing the content. So that's why I've kind of chosen this input as an initial input. And then it goes into StreamDiffusion here. And I'll kind of go over these kind of effects later to kind of show you how the feedback loop works. But essentially from there, it goes out to a few different setups. So here I'm doing some like color correction and stuff like that. And then down here, I'm actually creating, I'm taking this colored content and simplifying it so that's easier for the laser to trace. And so I have kind of like 4 different modes here, but essentially I'm gonna like threshold the content and then use some different compositing tricks to try to simplify it. So in this case, I'm kind of thresholding it and then I'm subtracting it. I'm like transforming it a little bit and then subtracting it from itself. And that gives me these kind of like thin lines. So it's kind of different than just like doing an edge detect on it. Ends up a little bit simpler. And then I have kind of some different variations of that, also using like dilate and erode to kind of limit the amount of geometry that it's able to trace. So I'm starting with something that's very complex, and I'm kind of like limiting what the laser can trace by applying these effects to it. And then I go ahead and I use Spout to kind of send that to another process because the laser tracing side of things is super heavy on the CPU side. It uses basically the entire thread, so it has to be on its own TouchDesigner setup. So I'll show you what that looks like. So that's here. Back up here. So I spout into here, so we can see our kind of like simplified lines coming in. And then in here, I have the actual tracer. So it starts with the content. It runs it through some other like thresholding just to make sure it's completely clean. And then here's the actual trace SOP where it takes that pixel data and actually creates paths out of it. But because the laser is still pretty limited in what it can do, like it has to physically move a mirror to hit a certain amount of points per second. And so you still need to do some extra sampling and kind of like smoothing of the laser path to kind of get it to be a little bit nicer and like read a little bit better for the laser. So that's why I'm doing this kind of resample here. And then it goes to this kind of like tracing mode thing that I made. So currently you can see it's kind of tracing mostly everything I'm giving it, but if I increase this number, it'll actually start to like trace dots and other little points of the original path. And I'm doing this all with carve SOPs. So here it's kind of tracing almost everything. Actually, let me make it a little bit easier to see here. Oops. So you can kind of see it's like pretty much, it's tracing all the geometry I'm giving it, and then these other ones are going to be subdividing that entire path into smaller paths. And what this does for the laser is it actually makes it a lot brighter, because when you give lasers less geometry, it's more bright because the laser spends more time at all of those points per frame. And so unlike a projector where, you know, no matter what you put up, it's not going to get brighter if you like make a small circle in the center. It's not like it can focus its brightness based on the content. A laser actually does focus its brightness based on the amount of content you give it. So if you give it a single point, it's going to be way brighter than if you give it a big shape. And so you can use that kind of to your advantage to create these really bright beams and these points in the final traced output. And then to actually do the mapping, so the actual projection mapping of the laser, I kind of hijacked the Canton mapper setup inside of TouchDesigner. Inside of there is a mesh that's used internally, which is here. And so I found this mesh inside, and so what I can do is use the Canton mapper tool to actually map my laser as if it was a projector. And then I grab that mesh internally, and I use a creep SOP to actually map the geometry onto this mesh that's used internally in there. So it essentially turns Canton mapper from a projection mapping setup into a laser mapping setup. It also works really well with Mad Laser, if you guys are familiar with that. I also have some visualization here. So this is a visualization that TouchDesigner does based on the laser data. And this is inside the op snippets. And so this gives me like a visualization of the path that the laser will take. And then I actually take that data and it comes back into this original setup here. And let me just, whoops, just unhide all of this. So here I'm actually able to add kind of the visualization back onto the original content as like a traced kind of layer. And so you essentially, when this is actually going and you're projecting and the lasers are lined up, there's actual like paths where it looks like the laser is burning into the content. And so the laser's tracing the content and it's also becoming part of the content itself, which I think is a really fun thing to do. And it's very difficult to do that outside of TouchDesigner. And from there it goes to kind of like my projector output and all that good stuff. The entire thing also is controlled from Ableton. So I have a bunch of parameters here that I usually control with a push to, and that allows me to like see the parameters in the screen and then also move them and kind of see what values that they're on. And so I have something physical, but it also, I can see digitally what the parameter is that I'm changing, and I think that's really, really cool and powerful. And the reason why I choose Ableton is also because I feel like if I'm using the same software that artists are using to create the music, I can kind of keep up with them as they're improvising as well. And that's something I really like to optimize when I'm designing these setups, is like I want to be able to set myself up to have amazing, happy accidents kind of while I'm trying to improvise with the artist. And so I'm like trying to create visual instruments that I can play during these shows instead of just playing back content and syncing it with the music. It's like I really want to kind of make it feel like an instrument. And one of the things that's really helped that work is this kind of feedback system. So as I said, it's generating a frame, and then that frame is finished, and then it goes back into the pipeline. And now that whole process used to happen in TouchDesigner, and it was actually a big bottleneck because the way that StreamDiffusion works, it would kind of not be fully aligned with that frame coming out and then it being able to immediately process it. And so we had to kind of wait for a really clean frame, or else there would be a lot of issues. And now with this newest kind of setup, it's actually opened up a lot of really cool possibilities with this processor setup. When I first started getting into this, I didn't really know how any of it worked, and so I started going to Claude Code and started kind of getting it to dig in there and experiment with things. And then once I got to a point with it where I kind of worked through a lot of different problems and then kind of had it summarize kind of the entire structure of it in this Claude MD file. So I use these Claude MD files as a way for Claude to kind of know what it's doing and kind of continue working on a project with all the knowledge that kind of a person would have when they're interacting with a project. And so I had to come up with this kind of this diagram to kind of show how this processor system works. So when so the image comes in and there's a pre-processing stage, and so at each of these stages we now have these like modular kind of Python blocks that we can put in here that we get controls with in TouchDesigner that we can tweak. And so we have an image pre-processing stage, which happens before it's encoded, and then it gets encoded and it becomes a latent, so it's in latent space, and then we can do a processor at the latent stage, and then it gets diffused, and then there's latent post-processing and then image post-processing as well. And for what I wanted to do, I found out that the image pre-processing stage was kind of like the best place to be messing around. And so essentially I made a kind of setup in Claude that will allow me to mess around with and kind of vibe code these processors. And the way that this shows up now in StreamDiffusion is you can essentially select your processor here from a list, and it's actually there's like a custom processors folder here. So these are kind of some of the ones that I've made over here. And when you drag them in there, they will show up here. And when you select them, their parameters will be exposed. And now you have these building blocks that are built with Python that you can mess with inside of this backend diffusion loop. And this is really powerful because now there's kind of like we don't have to worry about decoding and then putting it into TouchDesigner and then back through. Now we can kind of control things in this loop, and it's very fast and optimized. And so what I really want to do is to be able to transform them and scale and be able to kind of create these feedback loops, which allow us to kind of explore latent space kind of in a way. And to do that, I really needed some color controls. So I have controls to control the saturation in between every frame and the brightness. And so for my setup specifically, I really like to play with the black level because that allows me to get like negative space really easily. And that's what looks really, really good with the laser tracing, essentially. And we also have like scale and pan and tilt, and then we've added sharpen and like noise injection, but there's a lot more that kind of can be done with this, and I feel like this really opens up the capabilities of what StreamDiffusion is able to do, because now a lot of those things a lot of the things we had in Deform or Warp Fusion and all those other kind of diffusion-based techniques, they're kind of accessible in real time now. And so we're just beginning to kind of mess around with what's possible with this new pipeline setup. But so far it's been really fun, and to be able to just, you know, like drag in images as I'm kind of listening, like as I'm performing and other artists are performing, I don't have to prepare any content. I just come there and I like whatever I'm hearing, whatever I feel like should be the content, I can just make it on the fly and just be exploring all these possibilities, and it really feels endless, and it's been super fun. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to show. I can open it up to questions if you guys have any questions. Yeah. Yeah, what's up?
So any of these processors that you have here with StreamDiffusion today, are there like example processors that are in that folder?
There are not.
There aren't any processors yet, but they will be available soon. Yeah.
I've set them up almost like custom nodes in Comfy. They're like you can download a repo. So Spencer's probably going to release a pack. I'm in a terrible position for this, but yeah, there'll be more info coming soon.
Yeah, I think I will also. This Claude MD file pretty much understands the entire situation, and so I feel like giving that out to people. If you use Claude code, you could basically tell it to go in there and write processors for you, and it'll do a pretty good job. Yeah, especially once it has a few examples. Yeah. Cool.
During a performance, how many TouchDesigner projects do you have open?
At this point, I think it's 3. Yeah, because I also have a controlling one. So there is one actually I didn't show, which is this one, and it just manages the connection between Ableton and all my MIDI controllers. So all my MIDI controllers in Ableton get stuck to this thing, and then it sends OSC out to everything else. And it's great to have that decoupled, so that if anything else in the process lags, I at least have control of everything still. So.
Copy. And second question, you're just using Ableton to be able to control your parameters with the MIDI controller, not necessarily using it for like audio reaction or anything like that?
Yeah, so I am using it essentially as a big MIDI controller, like the entire software, but I'm using it also as like a bridge between the Push 2 and all of this other software, because the Push 2 on its own, it really needs Ableton to be able to be used properly, and that allows me to, have pages of parameters and see the, like that this parameter goes from like number 4 to number 50 or whatever. Like I can map all that out in Ableton and use it that way. And also I can have loops of different MIDI sequences that I can tap tempo to the beat, and also I use the tap tempo in other places as well. So I've kind of integrated it like a MIDI controller, but also a little bit more as well. Yeah.
I'm still processing this. I'm blown away. Thank you. I've never seen lasers do what you make them do, and I'm curious. I saw you were using CantaMap for some of the mapping, but will this also take ControlNet to have a specific outline that you want to have all the stuff running and use that to also map it onto architecture? And if so, how big can you go with the laser hardware? You barely talk about that laser hardware, just to get a sense of scale here.
ControlNet does work with this technically. I haven't gotten it working yet. The installation over there is using the Daydream API, and it works there. But it should work. I know that Lyle has gotten it working on the local version as well. It will add some more processing time, but it would be super cool, obviously, to have like depth map or some other information for architectural mapping and be able to interact with that and stuff. In terms of the laser's coverage and its brightness, I mean, the brighter the laser, the kind of the further it can go, and the bigger. Generally, they have a pretty big throw area, and also they can go way farther than a projector, like miles. And I've mapped structures from like over a mile away. I wasn't supposed to be doing it, but I did it.
Awesome.
And it does a very, very good job with that. The thing is with the lasers, you can, if you reduce its geometry to like a single point, you get a beam that can go for many miles. And when it ends up at its location, it hasn't diverged too much. Yeah. It's very, yeah.
Anybody else? Nice.
For someone starting out with lasers, what brand do you recommend, and what do you think of X laser?
Yeah, I would say that the two lasers that I currently own, the first one that I got that was like a serious laser was the Laser Cube. And I have one back there that if you guys want to see it later, but it's a very small laser that you can take with you, but it has like a 2-hour battery life, which I kind of never use, but it goes up to 7.5 watts, which is very, very high, and I would say like around 3 watts is kind of the point where it becomes like an impressive laser. So if you want to go above the point where it's kind of like a toy you're messing with and get something that's like actually impressive for like a show or an installation, like 3 watts is kind of that threshold. The Laser Cube is a little bit more expensive. It's also very small, which is incredible. For something a little bit bigger and a little bit cheaper, the Laser World lasers are really good and they integrate very well with TouchDesigner. With both the Laser Cube and the Laser World ones, you don't need an interface for the laser. You can plug in with Ethernet. So you don't need to worry about like powering all these other interfaces and networking to them and all that stuff. Like it's just Ethernet. I just send one Ethernet cable out, goes to a switch, goes to 2 lasers, and it's pretty much good to go. So between those 2 brands, I think you're pretty good. The Laser World 3-watt one is like, I think it's like $1,300 or $1,400, and I would say that that's a very impressive and capable laser. Yeah. Any other questions?
Could you expand on the feedback between TouchDesigner, the actual image content, and the diffusion model? Like, is it kind of just the diffusion models running separately and you're controlling it through these parameters, or does it take the actual image back?
Yeah, so currently it does start with an image that's coming out of TouchDesigner. If I turn down the feedback, you kind of see this noisy kind of thing, which is the original noise that I'm feeding in here. Then I'm able to kind of select the IP adapter image in TouchDesigner here. And then once you kind of increase the denoise in the feedback, it starts going. But yeah, before this processor system, it used to actually have to output the image to TouchDesigner, and then I would do all of this processing, like the transformation and the color correction in TouchDesigner, and then send it back. But because this process is out of sync from the main StreamDiffusion process, we always kind of were falling behind the entire loop. And so now that it is integrated into the loop itself, it's a lot faster. And we still have controls that are exposed in TouchDesigner to manipulate this loop. And so I think that this opens up a lot in terms of possibilities. Like you're not doing this transformation and this image processing in TouchDesigner directly anymore, but it allows you to still have access to all that stuff and to control it in audio reactive ways and really steer it over the course of your performance. So, yeah.
Oh, we got one more, or maybe not.
Thanks for this. Curious if, when you do integrate audio reactivity, what are your favorite parameters to hit? What are your favorite cues? How do you usually integrate audio detection into this kind of setup?
I used to do a lot more audio reactivity with my setup, but the kind of reality of dealing with projectors that usually they have a big delay in their output. So from the audio interface to TouchDesigner and everything, that's actually pretty low latency, but the projectors that are typically used for installations and events are the ones that are bright enough to kind of do what we need to do. They have too much of a delay, and so what I'm usually doing is actually drumming along to the beat with a lot of different cues on the push too, and also doing tap tempo patterns as well. So I have kind of like sequences that I've tap tempoed that will go through these patterns. Lyle has been doing lots of cool audio reactive stuff with this setup when it's not projected. And what he really likes to do is play around with like the denoise, so like this parameter and the amount of feedback and this kind of stuff, and also the noise injection. So you can kind of like have it get really, so you could increase the feedback and it gets like really, really smooth and slow, or yeah. So you can kind of like slow it down for a certain moment of the song and then like zoom in and turn up the feedback and all stuff. So there's lots of cool ways you can kind of like speed up and slow down and get into like a different moments kind of in the music. I feel like there's like a lot of different interesting ways to do it. I still think I need to fully explore what's possible on the audio reactive side now that this is all possible and this is a lot more responsive than it used to be. But yeah, most of the time I've been trying to actually be drumming along kind of myself, which is a lot of work, but it does force you to kind of be completely in tune with what's going on with the music and what the performer's doing. It makes it really hard to like walk away from it in the middle of a performance, but it's also been kind of fun to play with it that way. So, yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, it's I don't know if I have internet right now, but I can show it to you later. Sure. All right, I think that's it.
Yeah, we'll call it. Oh, no, they just muted both. All right, cool. One more thing. And all right, well, that's a nice level. We do have one more thing for y'all, a wonderful AV performance. Yeah, you're gonna like it. Stick around. A couple more drinks. There's like one more piece of pizza. It's up for grabs. You guys are gonna be screaming on the mic. Justin? But it's good. We're just gonna yeah. Cool. Feel free to take a couple minutes. We're trying to not be too much longer, so we're gonna start you
I think
whenever you're ready.
Close to ready, as long as everything's initialized. Can I go grab a seat as well? Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
All right, next up, we've got an AV performance from Easterner and Martha. Please put your hands together.
好，这招不错。继续。
Aditya Selamat malam hadirin sekalian. Selamat berpisah dan sampai bertemu lagi di lain waktu. كيف تمتع تبرك وتبرك بما تيسر Aditya. Actually, Nushka, Vishe Shantino. Salvete qui cunque esti. Bonam et vos voluntatem habemus, et pacem sperantia. Shalom. Chân thành gửi tới các bạn lời chào thân thương.
woke up to a state of mind I never really wanted. Cooled off in a paradise, stale blue, dripping red. You were a drug made for killing time. Not my finest hour. When you opened up the gate, I couldn't wait. No patience for this renegade. I finally found the beat. I'm alive. Feel the time into my eyes again. 10 speed in my chest. I don't care how you can live without me. You told me you'd save me. If only I'd changed.
我看三德很难过柳叶街道，未必。
Thank you all so much for coming out. And yeah. Thanks everyone for coming out tonight. Please give another huge round of applause for all the top presenters tonight and the AV performance.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we've got one on the books. We'll announce the date soon, but if anyone's got a talk, if they want to present, we'd love to have you. Thank you. Get home safe and soon.
Yeah.
Or, well.